Hello and welcome back. We are doing a JavaScript calculator today. All right. We're going to be using freeCodeCamp.com. All right. And that's going to be our verification for our project, really working towards that front end development. All right. Certificate that they're giving out there. And we're on to the final projects. All right. There's only a few projects left. Luckily, the first of the advanced projects is actually pretty easy, or at least there's an easy way to do it. So I'm going to show you that way. We're going to be using HTML, simple CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. That's it. It's not going to take us a terrible amount of time either, which is pretty cool. And there's some new things that I want to show you along the way. So let's get started with showing you what I want to build. So I'm going to share my screen out here, and then I'll show you what we're going to build. Here's my JavaScript calculator. All right, so you can see you can put in numbers, and you could do all the maths, squares and things, right? And all of this works perfectly fine. There we go. And we can go back a space, add something else, hit equals, clear everything, and we are good to go. So that was my test right there. As you can see, I generally go through, build one of these before I make a video, just to make sure I do know what I'm talking about. We're going to start off with this simple HTML. All right, simple HTML. Later on, I'm going to post about how do we get this up to GitHub, and I really didn't want to worry about any dependencies, so we're just going to be using vanilla JavaScript for this and just basic HTML and CSS. We're not even going to be using Bootstrap. Just some, like I said, basics. Don't have to worry about any dependencies, which is going to be kind of cool. So let's start off, okay, and all we really need is a body, and this is the chunk that we need. So I have a body. Remember to close your body. And everything is going to go inside the body, okay? Just like normal. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I am just going to place an h1 tag here. All right, and then that h1 tag, I'm just going to write something, just name it, like JavaScript Calculator. There you go. h1 and my h1 tag. And there's the beginnings of our project. Everything we do, I'm just going to place in one div. So we're just going to have a label and then a single div that is our calculator. Okay, so here's our div. I'm going to give it an ID equal to calculator. I'll write calculator out for you guys. All right. Usually just write calc. All right, and then we are going to end the div there, making sure we actually end the div. There we go. And everything else is going to go inside of this div. So now we have a div that we cannot see, which is okay. And what I want to start off with you is talk about forms. We're only going to have one element inside of this div, and this div is going to be a form. Okay, that's what's going to go inside of this. All right, so form. All right, if you don't know, if you just Google HTML form. All right, you'll get all these things. Like there's W3 schools, there's the MDN, which looks a little better, and you have a basic guide to how a form works, all kinds of advanced guides and widgets and styling guides and everything that you can do with forms. And you could send stuff back and forth through JavaScript, pass data back and forth. But we're going to be using this. If you look at like your basic HTML form, all right. And essentially, you have something that looks like this: a name, email, some sort of text entry, and then you can also have a button as well. All right, so in here is basically a form, and you can have actions and methods on here. And we're not even going to be worried about that. We're just going to start off by doing a simple form and using some buttons. So let's go ahead and start our form. And remember to /end our form. Okay, so now we have a form, and we're going to put things inside of the form. Okay, and I'm going to start off with the form. After the form, you're going to place an input field. Okay, an input field would be something like you would put in some text. And how do I designate that I want to put in text? Right. Well, I want to have a type, and the type that I'm going to be using is I'm going to set that equal to text, And notice I'm using single quotes. You can use single quotes or double quotes. We're going to get to a point where they do matter, where we're going to have escaped quotes or single quotes inside of double quotes, or actually it's going to be the other way around. I'm going to have an ID that I'm going to use to target this with. I'm going to target my CSS with this ID. And this ID for this first thing is just going to be the screen of my calculator. And so I'm just going to call this the display. All right, and there's my display. All right, and yeah, I am going to actually leave it like this for now. And here is what you get. Here is a text form input, and you can type things. In a calculator, you usually can't type things, though, right? So since you can't type things in a calculator like you would on a keyboard, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and type in disabled. What disabled does is it doesn't let me click on it. I'm clicking, nothing's happening. All right, just so you know. So now it's just an area. So there's a simple input, text input form, all right, or text input for a form. Okay, I'm going to add in a break here, give myself a little bit of space, all right, from there, and I'm going to add in a button now. So there's going to be an input, and one of the types of inputs you can put in is a button. Now, this method here, so I have the screen. When you have a screen like this already on here, you can go ahead and actually use Bootstrap buttons if you wanted to use Bootstrap buttons. But I want to show you just how to do this with the form inputs. And another reason is I've done this before with Bootstrap, and when I've done it with Bootstrap, I couldn't get it to look exactly the way I wanted. So if you look back to this, see how nice these buttons look, and they roll over and they click real nice. All right, the Bootstrap buttons I didn't get to look as nice. That's the only reason. I'll clear that out. All right, and since I didn't get to clear that out, or clear out the screen, since I didn't get this to be able to look exactly the way I wanted, I decided to try it a different way. And plus, I wanted to learn more about forms and go through all that stuff and teach you guys about the forms. So that's what we're going to be doing. Here you have to be mindful of the buttons. So I'm going to put all the buttons down, and they're going to go in one solid row, and then I'm going to put line breaks in. So you're going to have to really think about the order you want these buttons in. And I'm going to start off by putting them in what seems like a logical order, but it's not exactly going to work out. And you're going to see why when much later on, which is fine when we start doing some of our CSS. But the good news is we can move and copy and paste some chunks of code around to make it look perfect. Because you see here how I have 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. If you look on like the number pad on your keyboard there, you'll see that the 9 is supposed to be over here, then 8, 7, right? And then 6, 5. So we can move all that stuff around later. I just didn't do it because it didn't really matter to me. I was looking for the functionality. It looks good anyway. I might do it later. So the first thing we need to do is we can actually have a value. All right. So if I have a button, that button can have a default value. All right. And just like any other value, it could be a letter, a number, or anything like that. So this value, I'm going to set it equal to the string uppercase C. All right. And that's going to be the value of this button. And I'm going to give it an ID for my just to target my CSS with. And I'm just going to set that equal to keys. So all of my keys, all of my buttons are going to have the same ID of keys. And all of my buttons are also going to have an associated, an associated function. So instead of using jQuery to target an ID every time it's clicked on, you could do it right here with simple onClick. So I'm adding this right into the button itself. So ID keys onClick. All right, and when I do that, I'm going to say onClick, run a function that I'm later going to call to screen, and that's going to send something to that screen or to the display. Maybe I'll call it it'll print it to the screen. That's really what I wanted there, and that's going to be here, and it's going to send something specifically to the screen. It is going to send a C to the screen. Okay, and it's not actually going to send a C to the screen. So I'm going to do something else with some if-else statements, but just so you know, that's the base of it. And then we have this finished off here. So onClick screen, There we go. And there's your syntax. Notice how I use the double quotes inside of here because I already had the single quotes for the on-click. All right, so that's how come this is where they matter, only because if you wanted to use single quotes, you'd have to use the escape quotes, okay? So there you go. You don't have to do the slash input, okay? You do not do this, okay? You don't have to do that. You just leave it open for the input, and that is all. And you can see, since I have a line break in there, I have now this C. Okay, all of my keys are going to be the same. I'm going to have buttons. They're going to have some kind of value. They're going to have this toScreen function on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. Control C, save myself some time. I already know the order ahead of time, what this is going to be. So I know I'm going to have 4 buttons in each row pretty much. So there is 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to have a break. I'm going to have 4 buttons and then another 4 buttons, another 4 buttons, right? And there's my breaks in there. I don't want them all to be C though. This next one I want to be CE, or clear entry, which I'm just going to use to delete one. And this isn't actually going to be the toScreen function. This one I'm going to change and make this a different function. So I'm going to define a different function. I'm just going to call backspace, and it's just going to backspace 1. All right, it's just if I have something in here, my clear entry is just going to clear whatever I hit last in there. Okay, so that's going to be a separate function. So that's good. After CE, I'm going to have another specialty because I had an extra spot in the calculator. So I'm just going to call this x squared. And so it is just going to square whatever is in the screen itself, okay? So I have, like 5 squared, 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 so on and so forth, and I can clear that out. Notice when I hit clear, it doesn't actually add that C. Well, that's the functionality in JavaScript that we're going to add in later. All right, so this x squared, okay, that's, as you probably guessed, that's not going to be toScreen function. This is going to be, I'll call it the power function. It doesn't have to be x squared. You can make it x to the third, x to the fourth. You can do whatever other mathematical function you want there. You could just define that and change that the way that you want. The next thing that you're going to see, I want the plus and minus all to kind of go down the side there. So this is going to be a plus sign that I want there. And again, this is going to be add to screen plus, because actually when I hit a plus, I actually want to see the plus there. All right. So there we go. There's my first line of buttons. And you notice in JavaScript, there's some, or HTML rather, HTML5, there's some base buttons that I have right here. And didn't add in Bootstrap, didn't do anything like that. All I did was use some form and input. That's it. There's no dependencies, no libraries, don't have to worry about Bootstrap, beta, anything like that. There it is. Well, I want a new row. All right. So let's say I want 4 more, right? So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, break. Okay. So what's next here? Now, I could do this the right way if I want to for you guys, but nah, I'll put it in the way I had it. It just goes down like so. 9, 8, 7, minus 9, 8, 7, minus. And you see how I'm calling the same function, but I'm going to pass in these values to go right to the screen? That's pretty cool, right? So I don't have to worry about any extra JavaScript logic or keeping track of arrays or anything like that. It just works out really nicely for us. And again, I already knew what this was. You can kind of sketch out what your button layout ahead of time and get your button layout right. Like I said, you can put the 9 over here the way it's supposed to be and the 6 over there and the 3 over there. I think it looks better that way, but you don't have to. So next we're going to have another chunk, right? It's going to have 4 more buttons. So I'm just going to copy that whole chunk. Takes that chunk. So the next row after 9, 8, 7 minus, we're going to have 6, 5, 4 multiply, right? So 6, 5, 4 multiply. Over here, 6, 5, 4, multiply. That's working out pretty good, right? Those are all add to screen. Yep, those are all add to screens. Next, paste it in. The next set that I want is going to be 3, 2, 1 divide. 3, 2, 1 divide. 3, 2, 1. And because JavaScript has this eval function, we can just put all of these numbers right on the screen and use this eval function right in vanilla JavaScript, which is pretty nice. So I don't have to worry about doing anything else but just sticking this stuff right on that screen, right there in that form. The other thing that we do need, though, we need to add in some more here. This next is going to be a little bit misshapen here. So we kind of have to think about this. I want a 0, a dot, which again go right to the screen, and then a big equal sign. Okay, these are going to both be the same. Again, if you had this sketched out ahead of time on a little piece of paper, it would be just fine. Or if you had a small little calculator sitting in front of you, you could just imagine this, and you can see it populating down here just the way I want. I know the sizes are a little off, but that's fine for right now. So I need 2 rows, and then one with a custom. So Control C, Control V. 3, 2, 1, 0, 0, decimal point, decimal point. And last, I need something that has a custom, like this power one up here, right? It's going to be a key. All right, but it's going to be a little different though. So I'm going to show you. Control C. The keys all have the same size. So you can see with CSS, they can all be the same. I'm going to have to target this CSS differently. So it can't be a key. It's going to have to be something else. So that's okay, though. We can handle that. So this is going to be the equal sign. And instead of keys, I'm going to target this with equals, right? And this, I'm going to call this function well, let's call it equal. Or equal. There you go. Call that one equal. All right. And then we end our form. And there we go. End our form. And maybe inside of this div, I will do something fancy like I did over here. I'll just write JavaScript Calculator, run the calculator. I was thinking maybe like Phony Sonic or something on there instead, but let's call it. I'll use an H3 tag for that. It seemed to work out pretty good with an H3 tag. And I'll just say JavaScript Calculator. And I'll end my H3, even though there's nothing else there, so it wouldn't really matter. But, you know, it's good just to close that off. And that's it for our HTML. There we go. There's our basic of our calculator. We have buttons that do nothing right now, but they can click. We have text input that we can't input anything to, but we're going to do all of this functionality. We just add in just with a very, very few functions with JavaScript. That's it. So for part 1, we're done. All right, so go ahead, make sure you save what you have. All right, when you save, it does that. And then we're going to move on to CSS next. All right, and then obviously JavaScript after that. So hopefully this was helpful for you all, and I will see you all next time.